is massive there. Sorry.
Hey everybody, real quick, we're going to show you a video that we put together, this particular edit of which we just finished today, so I haven't even really seen the full version. And then after that we'll have a panel. We'll talk about where it all came from. Can I do more of an intro for this video? I think it explains itself. You put Luke on the spot with this. So while we're waiting for this to come up, the photographers here helped work on this campaign. Carmen was a big part of this campaign. And this is the 1 minute, 30-second edit. We have a 26-second edit that we already finished. Where'd you go, Luke? Wherever you at. What do you think? That's the first time seeing that one.
No, a lot of memories, a lot of protests, a lot of marches. It's like, that looks like the last 11 years, 12 years of our work. Maybe longer, but man, powerful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Right? I even got a little emotional. Just to kind of go off the cuff here, one of the things that's happened in this partnership and collaboration is that Carmen has been nice enough to open up the archives of their footage. And so that's, you know, obviously Harry Belafonte, who founded the Gathering for Justice in the beginning, and they just have an archive of footage through that. And so they were very, very kind to allow us to use that. And we wanted to honor I just wanted to honor all the work that goes into fighting for change every day. You're not supposed to get emotional in front of people, right?
I'm not. I just came back from Mexico, so my emotions are high. I just witnessed the inauguration of the first woman, from the Americas to be a president. So, I mean, this is why we do the work.
Right.
It's gotten us to this moment today. So,
yeah, it means a lot. It means a lot to me to be trusted enough to have their footage and to put it forward in this capacity in kind of a new way and have it represent with sneakers. But really, the sneakers are truly to treat activists like athletes and promote them because with that, then they're the people making change. And so if we continue to promote the people making change, hopefully we just continue to make more change, as you witnessed in Mexico City. But yeah, that's enough off the cuff business. We'll let Marcus take it from here. Watch your step, it's a little wet.
All right, what's going on, everyone? Oh, we can do a little bit better than that. Thursday nights? Okay, what's going on, everyone? Right, okay, we'll take that. Well, first of all, my name is Marcus Evans, and this evening we're going to have a quick panel discussion and talk about the intersection between social justice, footwear, and fashion, how those two meet. And first of all, I just want to say thank you to Extra Butter. You all been so kind this year, so big John Luke and the entire staff. I know Bernie couldn't make it here tonight, but we truly appreciate you all for building community all throughout the year. I've been to a lot of these events and they've been super dope, so thank you for everything and for the entire setup. And again, this evening we're just gonna, kind of talk and conversate about some of the things that are going on in society and how that kind of ties into what you've seen here. So first, I wanted to start out by introducing everyone quickly, and then they can also say a little bit of a hello. But we have Matt Drazen over here. Okay. All right, and then we have Carmen Perez Jordan here as well. And then Sean Williams. So yeah, let's just get right into it. So what I want to do is kind of have everyone kind of talk about what you do, your titles, and your journey, and really how you got here. So Matt, if you want to kick things off.
Sure. Can you hear me in the back?
Yeah.
I'm a 25-year footwear designer. I went straight out of college into shoe design, and it's a dream job. Some of my friends that I've worked with in the past are here, and it's great. No notes, but at the same time, for me, I needed to find something more to be more fulfilling in my day-to-day and the time that I was doing, because I did a lot of volunteering, and that really filled me with joy, but work ended up becoming more work. And so in order to take my work and turn it into something that also expresses joy, I created AgencyFootwear, basically to help the people fighting for change. And that's really all there is to my journey.
That's a great journey. Let's give them a round of applause. My name is Carmen Perez Jordan. I am the president CEO of the Gathering for Justice, which is a social justice organization that works to dismantle the criminal legal system. Initially, we started in 2005. Harry Belafonte brought together the elders of the movement, and when he realized that it was really going to be the youth that moved the movement, I was invited, and that was 20 years ago. So I've been sitting at the feet of Harry Belafonte for 20 years, leading his organization and working to stop child incarceration. So we work on also stopping police violence. Our work has taken us from the prisons of Tracy to the prisons of El Salvador, where we brokered a peace truce between MS-13 18th Street gang leaders. I've also been, I'm one of the 4 national co-chairs that led the Women's March on Washington. So 5 million people around the world. That was after we marched from New York City to DC, and also co-led Justice or Else. So I got to give it up to my sisters Tamika Mallory and Linda Sarsour, who are not here with us tonight, but they're my co-conspirators. So, but I'm also the co-founder of an organization called Poderistas. It's an online platform for Latinas to be civically engaged. We use culture and lifestyle. And I am also one of the people who organize to free Meek Mill and take a knee with Colin Kaepernick. So those are just some of the initiatives that we organize under the Gathering for Justice. But my journey really started 30 years ago when I had a sister killed and buried on my 17th birthday. Her death really taught me how to live, and I think, I was an athlete. I played ball from the age of 5 all the way to college, and I also played softball, showed up to volleyball games, and dusted girls all the time. But one thing that I will say is, you aspire to have your own shoe. You aspire to certain things, and to be here in this moment today is just really an honor and really a dream come true, especially from Oxnard, California to New York City.
Amazing.
How y'all doing, everybody? I am Sean Williams, co-founder of Obsessive Sneaker Disorder, the first sneaker podcast in the industry. Also co-founder of Social Studies, and now the Social Studies Community Academy, which is America's first sneaker business and culture academy. 40 years in on footwear and fashion as an educator and consultant and exhibition curator for the last 20 years, and a born and raised Brooklynite who still loves the city, regardless of all the YouTube videos saying it's good.
Thank you for that. Thanks for all those introductions. And I think one thing that's clear that you all can see is that these are power shakers, right? Within what they're doing. Excuse me. So amazing and very inspiring. So, Matt, I want to get started with you. So why now create your own footwear brand? You mentioned that you had some ties in the industry, designing for a lot of amazing brands. And then also, can you tell us on why did you land on the name for the brand?
Thank you for reminding me that I should have mentioned a few of the places that I worked in the past. But New Balance and Diesel. Come on in, guys. Have a seat. Take your time. It's all good. Everybody knows everybody in here. It's all good.
Happy to have you too.
Yeah,
Okay, so you were mentioning about
started, my first job was interning at Converse, and then I went and I worked for Michael Rubin's one of his first companies, which was the brand that I was working on was Rika, which is for women and by women shoes. I was a junior designer working under 4 different incredible ladies from Nike and Adidas that really taught me a lot about the industry. And at that time, I just volunteered randomly. I actually had a brand new baby at the time, and went to Burger King, got a flyer and said, hey, we're painting murals around the city in Philadelphia Cares Day. And I was like, I can draw, I'll paint a mural, I'll help out. And I called in and they were like, we need people to actually do the murals. And so I designed a mural that was a huge wall. Like if you ever put up a wall, it was 100 feet by 10 feet. I mean, it was a huge wall. I won't say it was a great wall for me, but it was impressive enough that the neighborhood kept it up for a year. And everybody that went to the school where it was at and worked on it, they all signed it. And in that moment, I learned I get to use my skill set to help the greater good. I get to use my skill set to help the community. And then through this project, I've learned that that's what I've been trying to recapture my entire career, and is to be able to use my skill set for the greater good. And so it kind of started there, you know, and through that journey, you know, you work so hard to climb the corporate ladder, at least I did. And, you know, you work in different places, at New Balance, like I said, and Diesel, and some smaller places that are where I've learned a lot, but, you know, they don't always help you advance in your career. And then at the end of the day, it's like, what does all this work stand for? What does it mean? And so that's what it came down to for me. When I finally put it all together, there was like, okay, I'm just gonna put all my effort into this. That was probably around 2016 when everything really came to a head. And that's when I kind of started to change course and plot my exit strategy from corporate America to come up with my own idea on how I could use my most effective way to help the movement. In being a shoe designer, I felt like that's what I can do the most to bring to the movement. Just respect what they're doing and learn from them, and just try and help as best I could.
No, perfect. And then one other question I have for you is, why the name? How did the name come about? The agency.
Agency,
Yeah.
you know, I started out as Human Collective Social Alliance, and then I shortened it to Human, just because I believe that's what we needed to, what society needs to overcome the political will to change, and is the human, everybody kind of coming together. And then it was like, but for a brand to succeed, a brand needs to be 2 syllables or 3 syllables. It needs to be 1 word, and it needs to mean something. And so that's where agency came from. It was just, I was actually reading Frantz Fanon at the time, and agency popped in, and it was just like, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. All right, that's what's up. Thank you for that. Carmen, yeah, so first of all, thank you for being here. Now, you just came back from where?
Mexico City.
Mexico City, okay.
I was there for 6 days.
6 days, and how was that? How was that experience for you?
It was powerful. We met with elected officials, with people from the art industry, businesses, nonprofits, feminists, social justice activists. It was packed days, really learning about the relationship between the United States and Mexico. And one of the things that really stood out for me is we were also there to participate in the inauguration of the first female president of the Americas. But it was a very special delegation. There was 25 of us, Mexican-American, immigrant, and Latino leaders from across the United States, from different sectors. And what I learned there is we're one of the #1 partners of the United States when it comes to trade, but we also are a lot of the guns. You know, we talk about violence in Mexico and the narcos and things like that. But the United States actually supplies Mexico 70% of the guns that come into, or the arms that come into Mexico come from the United States, all over the United States. And there's only 1 gun shop in the whole country. And so, you know, there's just a lot of learning, unlearning that I had to do, unpacking, especially because I do watch the news and I watch TikTok, and you hear all these horrible things that are said about Mexicans and Mexico in particular. My mother is from Mexico, and you know, I was trying to take her to for her birthday on vacation to Mexico, and she's like, "No, I'm not trying to go there." And we forced her, and it was so beautiful. And so, just to figure out how to build a stronger relationship between the U.S. and Mexico is really what I'm committed to. Hopefully, in the next 40, 50 years of my life.
That's amazing, though. Give it up for her for that, please. And then also, so you talked about this most recent experience, but you know, you've been doing this for a long time, and a lot of personal experiences have helped shape who you are as a person today. So, what would you say that you're most proud of? You know, during your tenure of, you know, leading change,
30 years.
30 years. 30 years, y'all. Put some respect on
Yeah.
that.
I
30 years.
initially started in the prisons. I went to UC Santa Cruz, studied under Angela Davis and Aida Hurtado, who's a Chicana feminist, and really learned about the Black liberation movement. Clearly, I was all into Malcolm X, and then working for Harry Belafonte, he was a confidant to Dr. King, so I started studying Kingian nonviolence. And we now teach it. I'm one of the practitioners who teaches about nonviolence. But I've been doing this work for 30 years, creating alternatives to incarceration, working inside prisons, and then I started leading Mr. Belafonte's organization for the last 20 years. But one of the things that I'm most proud of, I mean, we've led some really amazing campaigns. I don't know if I would feel it now, because organizing the Women's March, I also didn't know how big it was going to be when I was doing it every single day out of my office. And I remember at the time, my now husband, who was my then friend, was saying, you know, he lived in California, I lived in New York City, so I'd get home at midnight and I'd call him because it was still 9, and I needed to decompress from the organizing that we're doing. But he's like, you know, you're doing something, you don't even know how big it's going to be. And on January 21st, when 5 million people from around the world came together for women's rights, I still haven't been able to really absorb that, because when you organize something at that caliber, like when we organize around police violence, we then become the target of police unions. When we came after the NRA, we did a march from the DOJ to the NRA around Philando Castile and him being killed at the hands of police, and the NRA not saying one word about what had happened, because he was a gun owner, he was a membership NRA, he was an NRA member, but then we were attacked by the NRA. And so you kind of get used to being attacked as somebody who's on the front lines, working on different policies. But when I organized the Women's March, it wasn't against Trump, it was actually for women's rights. For us, what we did is we created the unity principles, where we asked women to come together through through connecting their issues through a gender lens. And so it was the most powerful platform in the history of any march, is what was said. But Mr. Belafonte guided me through the process, because he was there during the original March on Washington. He was one of the people that funded the original march. He organized the artists, he brought the people together, and so he was instrumental in really guiding me. But we didn't know that what we were doing was going to create the level of visibility that then would put us in jeopardy, that would actually bring, that would make us unsafe. And so for the last, I would say, since 2018, it started a little bit in 2017 after we organized the Women's March, but then there were these major attacks on mine, Tamika, and Linda's life. Where we would go to speaking engagements and we'd have people who would put our face on Facebook. And so there's times where I kind of resent the Women's March because of what it did to me and my safety, and how difficult it has been, because when you get falsely accused of anti-Semitism, what they did is they falsely accused us of anti-Semitism. And what we learned in 2022 is that we were actually the targets of the Russian intelligence agency, who spent $100 million to disrupt American democracy, and they did that by, you see they're here now. They did that by taking the Women's March out and targeting 3 women. And we were the perfect victims. We're a Mexican, Black woman, and a Palestinian woman, right? But I'm gonna get to the point where what I'm most proud of. So for many years I have kind of rejected the Women's March, or even the fact that I played a significant role in it. But going to the first women president of Mexico's inauguration is the reason why I sacrificed my life, I sacrificed my time, and I organized every single moment. And I need to own that. And I need to be proud of what I was able to do, not just in 2017, but in 2018, even while I was being attacked in 2019 and 2020. We kept on bringing women together, and we created the Women's Agenda. And so I'm looking forward to more women running for office, to more women having autonomy over their bodies, to more women leaders, and you know, I'm gonna put in a plug, and you know, you may not agree, but to have our first woman president here in the United States.
Thank you for that. Actually, Carmen, I do have another question for you. So sorry, Sean, we're gonna get to you.
We're coming to you, Sean. You've been ready, okay?
It's really not like a smooth transition. We appreciate your sacrifice, but when we talk about organizing, right? Like you are on your feet all day. You are communicating with people who are really out there in the, you know, on the front lines. So how do you think about style? Because we know you fly, right? We know you like to, you know, look sharp out there. But when it comes to footwear, how do you approach that? You know, we thinking comfort first. What do you normally put on your feet?
I'm trying to look fly.
I heard
And,
that.
you know, I don't know if y'all hear ladies, like sometimes it's that by any means necessary look fly. You know, a little discomfort in the shoe. I will say I've gone through different iterations of shoes, and it depends on the protest or the march. And so there's times when you're looking for comfort, there's times you're looking for if there's going to be cameras in there. You know, it kind of depends. I will say with this shoe, it is everything for me. I get to have my logo, the Gathering for Justice, on it.
Fly shoe right there.
It's comfortable, and it also has style. And you do look for comfort. When you're marching 250 miles, you're going to find a shoe that you could wear throughout the march, right? If you're marching 100 blocks, you're gonna think about the shoe. If you're gonna just have a rally, then maybe you're not thinking about the comfort of the shoe, but you're looking at making a statement. I'm trying to do that all in one shoe. And one of the things that I had shared with Matthew is like, you know, I also wanted to have purpose, you know, to be able to say that I'm marching and I'm, you know, you could talk about protests and you could talk about the powers that be, but a lot of times, you know, when you're fighting capitalism, you're actually wearing the capitalistic materials that we're fighting against, you know?
Sure.
I don't necessarily know if I have to do that anymore, that we don't have to choose, that we actually can wear sustainable products and it means something. But certainly I think, you know, it's also the lipstick. Not that I wear red lipstick anymore, but I used to try to make a statement. It's the shoes and the lipstick for me sometimes.
Gotcha. Very good, very good. And Sean, you know, obviously being a veteran in the community, you know, comfort, talk to me.
I guess I'd have to say for even right now, where we are with the journey of me being a kid growing up, 13 years old, getting into sneakers. Now here I am in my 50s. And I'm doing this on a level that a lot of people around the world are not doing. We opened a sneaker academy. We taught nationally, we taught internationally. We have partnerships with colleges and universities around the world. We opened up the door to what is now sneaker media by creating the first sneaker podcast. We have hundreds of people who come through our programs and now work in the sneaker industry. You know, and you know, there's a longevity there in the work in the business of sneakers that I think a lot of people need to be into, as opposed to just what they look like and how they match an outfit. And we've been able to push that agenda and get people to really understand that. And even now, where we are to this day, where now there's a brand, first sneaker brand created that, you know, with the explicit purpose of saying that activists are athletes.
That's right. Shout out
Right?
to Matt.
There's regular sneaker companies that make sneakers and then they craft the narrative of, you know, sports is activism. You know, then what does that mean? Shut up and dribble.
Yeah.
Remember that.
Colin Kaepernick doesn't play football ever again. You know, you name it. But this is coming from the other end. This is specifically created for being out there, doing what you believe in. And, you know, we believe sneakers are agents for change. And we've been able to do that now for 20 years almost. You know, through our education, through our storytelling, through our curation. Like, the highlight reel for us is still running because we get up and do this every day.
100%.
So that's me. That's how I feel. The legacy's still being built. Nothing settling.
Yeah, that's amazing. No, that's beautiful. And Matt, I got a question for you. So there are plenty of organizations that you could have partnered with, right? So what stood out about gathering for social justice, you know, what made you reach out to them and say like, okay, I've identified them as the group that I want to partner with?
I think from the presentation and from hearing Carmen, it's pretty obvious that she's electric and she brings it, and she's a real one. And you know, so for me, I did the research where I went to the United Justice Summit or United Justice Coalition Summit 1 year just to take notes, where they had speakers like Bernice King and people like that. And Carmen was there. She was, I believe, you even helped organize it a little bit. And then the next year I came back and I had some shoes with me, and I talked to some people just in the greeting area, and I told them about my whole, they were like, how does this help social justice? And I told them about my whole business philosophy, and they're like, yeah, that's good and all, but it needs to like immediately be understandable. And so I was like, well, the best way to do that is to partner with somebody who can convey that message and is trusted in the community and also helps bring the community together. One of the things about the Gathering for Justice that I don't know if it gets talked about as much is that they're also coalition builders. And that's one of the big things that Harry did in the very beginning is bringing people together, whether it's multi-generational, just every different community. Harry Belafonte was interested in asking for their opinion and building that coalition. And I believe in that too. I've moved all around the country and lived in a number of different communities, and I just love it when I find people who have a completely different background than me, and we believe the same thing. And we came to that conclusion just with open eyes and an open heart and an open mind, and now we believe the same thing. And so through the United Justice Coalition Summit, I learned about the Gathering for Justice, and then I emailed actually, and Carmen got back to me and was like, all right, we'll see. and then the story goes to her from there. But it was really just trying to figure that out and trying to figure out who made sense in the community. And also I wanted it to be New York based, because New York and California are the places where I've lived the longest, but also because the heart of sneaker culture is New York, and a big part of the social justice community is New York. If it's not the heart, it might even be. And I feel like one of the things that I wanted to do, or I thought a sneaker brand should do, is be rooted in the community and be housed here and be a part of it and embedded in it, and not like bring basically the sneaker community to Oregon, if you will. You know, not taking shots.
You mean they don't all exist there? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I'm just saying, there's a whole social justice community there too, and it is completely different than me. So, but that's where it came from. That's why I chose.
Perfect. And so, Carmen, you get this email from Matt, right? It's probably not every day that you're getting emails from designers, for footwear brands, or maybe you do, right? So what were you thinking when you were reading that, and like what jumped out to you to say, this is a dope idea, a dope concept, like let's build together?
Well, let's just keep it 100. Matt was lucky that I don't have an assistant. And I answer my own emails because,
right.
I get a lot of people who block folks because they're like, well, Carmen's too busy. No, we actually do get a lot of emails from brands. So we are the America recipient of Louboutin's Walk a Mile in My Shoe.
Okay. Very cool.
And then Pies for Justice, we also had a deal with Meek Mill and I think it was Puma. So we've done that. I think what I want to just say here is that you have to develop partnerships outside of traditional philanthropy because they're consistently changing their priorities, right? Their strategic priorities. And it's really based on what's happening. Also, too, I think for organizations that don't take money just from anybody, you have to make sure that you vet the person that you're actually building with. And I say that because when George Floyd happened, every company hired a DEI person, but they didn't implement DEI policies. And they also gave money and certainly did not really shift the way in which they were leading in their own company, right? And so there's a lot of theatrical activism that happens with companies. And when I met with Matt and he and I spoke, I knew that there was something different there. It wasn't it wasn't about photo ops, it wasn't about theatrics. It was a true partnership of like, what do you think about the colors of these shoes? And he was asking the people. He wanted to hear from the people. And I think, you know, for us, it was aligned with the way in which we organize. Like he said, we're coalition builders. Everything that we do is done in coalition and partnership. It's so important. You know, I played basketball, so we're only as good as our weakest link. You got to keep your eyes on the prize, right? Like everything we gather for justice. That's really what we do. We create. There's entry points for people to get involved. We always say there's a lane for everybody in the movement. Whatever gift you have, bring that to the cause. And so he brought his gift to the cause. And there were a lot of conversations. I have to thank Matt for his patience, because a 19-year-old organization, there's a lot of transition happening. There's a lot of, and the movement moves in various directions. But I think just hearing his experience, hearing his background, hearing the original story of how he went to volunteer and he felt alive with volunteering and he wanted purpose, and we potentially could help with that purpose. You know, I've said this before, this shoe for us is not like any other partnership, because other partnerships just want to donate. It's truly been a partnership since we began talking. I don't know if you feel that way, but you know, there's things where I was like, wait, we got to make this a little bit. He's like, well, we can't change all of the, okay, we'll go back and change it. You know, it's like, you're doing this thing together and you don't know how it's going to come. And I think we just had our 19th anniversary 2 weeks ago. And you don't realize when you're in the mix that some beautiful product is going to come out of it. We also did the photo shoot and we had come through here, but the comfortability of the shoe, everything, he was so intentional about it, and he listened to us, and he also listened to the community, and I think that's what we have now on our feet, is just a well-oiled product that allows for me to have a conversation with somebody why they need to buy the shoe.
That's super dope. Sounds like it's a perfect collaboration. In partnership, more important.
Partnership.
And speaking of partnership, Sean, I'll pass it over to you. So you've seen a lot, you know, being a veteran with consulting with different brands. So what stood out about this partnership?
Well, I know I got to take a page from Harmon for a second. And when I first met Matt and saw his intention, it's not every day that, you know, and Matt's gonna laugh when I say this, but it's not every day a white guy from where he comes from comes into your academy and drops this shoe and the story of why he made this shoe on you, and like literally drops the pieces in front of you and says, this is this is that, this is this is why I did that, this is why I did that. Oh, and by the way, I used to work with these people over here and here, and I'm like, so that led you to this? You're like, you're about it. This is it. This is life right now. He's like, yeah, this is it. So, you know, me being in the shoes for 40 years now, I've always appreciated every sneaker that I saw in everybody's. That's what's kept me in it.
Right.
Even now, like, my goal with all the educating that we're doing is so that we find that person who's going to be next. Because you can use sneakers as agents for change. We've been doing it, and now you have actually a physical embodiment of it with AgencyFootwear. So, you know, when I heard about the partnership with Harmon and Gathering for Justice, it just was like, okay, this is authentic storytelling right here. This is what the sneaker industry is missing on so many different levels, authentic storytelling. This one wasn't forced, you know. I've heard of the Gathering. I know Matt now, heard his story, right? So I'm one-on-one, okay, this is where it's supposed to go. You know, authentic storytelling is lacking right now in so many different arenas, not just shoes, but, you know, it's everything. Apparel, perfume, cars, you name it. There's so much manufactured storytelling that when you finally see that something authentic pops up, you gotta recognize it, you gotta give it its props.
100%. And, you know, I want to stick with you for a second because you started to talk about something, authenticity within, these different footwear brands. We're not going to name any names this evening, but let's think about messaging for a second, right? Because a lot of times, things don't land. Like, audience, like, help me out. I know you all have seen a lot of different collabs, and you're like, I don't know if this makes too much sense, or why did they do this at this time? So, what would you say about the messaging specifically with the shoe? Because, there's so much there, right? It's a lot to unpack, but it's a beautiful thing.
It is a lot to unpack, and to Matt's credit, he's done the due diligence and spoke to the people he needed to speak to make sure that all the messaging is powerful and authentic, right? And this is prior to even a partnership with Gathering for Justice. This was just Matt with AgencyFootwear. He did the due diligence on all the aspects. When you break down the midsole, when you break down right down to where the shoes are manufactured, right down to that. He wanted to be so authentic in even where the shoes are manufactured, in a part of China that's known for the cleanest air. Like, come on now, right? It don't get too much more authentic than places like that. So, in situations like that, we do the due diligence to look. So, I have a full appreciation for all authentic storytelling, and there's no replacement for authenticity in any arena. Perfect.
Can I add?
Of course.
Matt would be like, what the F is this? Like, I don't know what, and he would talk this like shoe talk
It's a different
that
language,
I just
right?
didn't know.
Being
And it was,
right.
yes, all those things. And this is the way it's going to look with this, and then this is going to go above this, and then it's going to go inside, and then it's going to, I would just be like, oh my God, I do not know. Because my brain would be fried. And now I had to learn about shoes, and he was a perfect teacher because he would break it down so much. I mean, what you were saying, it was like, and then he would break the shoe apart. And so we were looking at a different shoe in the beginning, it felt. And now it evolved to this because we began to ask questions. But we didn't know how to ask questions in the beginning until he really dissected the shoe. And so he would show up with the shoes, and I'd be like, where's the shoe? Like, where's the shoe? Is that what it's going to look like? And I'm just glad that we went through this process together. And the word agency, right, for an activist, for any human, to have agency, to be able to, I think that's just a perfect word. Zakia said it. She's one of the people that is part of Justice League NYC, one of our task force. She said, a perfect name for those of us who need agency in order to be in the streets advocating for others. But yeah, he would come in with a bag of and he would just leave the shoe there, and you're just kind of like, what do I do with this?
Right.
How do you put it back together? Like, which flap goes? It was pretty amazing. Again, because previous partnerships have just been, this is a shoe, this is a shirt. We're going to put your name on the partnership, and then you're going to get some proceeds from it. And it's never been learning about how products are made or what the material, where does it come from. You're just kind of like, okay, where do we go from here?
Right. No, that's amazing. So first thing we know is Matt is a mad scientist when it comes to this. I mean, I'm sure we have some designers in the crowd right now, but shout out, salute to you all, because we see the finished product, but oftentimes we don't get to see it going from point A to point B and so on and so forth. And so, Carmen, you actually mentioned something interesting about how you've been able to see things literally from the ground up or from the foot up. So now that you know everything, what kind of impact do you think that this partnership can have, really just in terms of our communities and just social justice in general?
I think we saw it at the anniversary. We saw a lot of folks really invested. It's a different level of investment. People want to wear something that not just makes them feel good, but that they could then share why they're wearing it. My brother, my son, who's a hip hop artist, recently threw all his Nike shoes away because of just some of the controversy behind Nike and the fact that they don't align with people who are doing this work. And so he's been looking for people who just have their own brands. He wants to align with it. And so this reminded me of folks, those of us that have to make the very difficult decisions to not wear name brand, to not that we don't wear name brands, but that wear brands that align with our values.
Sure.
And I think, again, this is a value-centered shoe that doesn't make you feel, one of the things I remember, we marched, I was 8 months pregnant, marching 100 blocks from 110th to 4th Street, and I see one of my peers, my feet were swollen, I'm carrying a 1-year-old, or 1.5-year-old, I'm pregnant, and I'm marching in the heat, and it was 2020. It was after George Floyd. I got called by the mayor because there's a lot of stuff happening, and so I was like, yeah, I'll put together a march. And I remember one of my friends wearing Balenciagas marching, and he marched the whole way, and he was like, all good. And so the other day, when I wore these all day, because he had us do a photo shoot, I don't know how many hours we were outside, they felt like and so after I had seen my friend wear the Balenciagas, I went and asked my husband, I said, I need a pair of Balenciagas because I need a march, right?
Trying to get fly,
and
right?
they're not a good brand either because they've done some very shady stuff. So now you got to throw away the Balenciagas, but you still want the comfort in another shoe. But I wore these all day, and I had said to you, I remember buying Balenciagas, and this shoe feels like a cushion of a Balenciaga. And again, you have to align with the community, because if you don't align with the community as an activist, then you look like a fraud, right? And sometimes you don't want to make the difficult decision, because I don't know about you all, but I'm a brand loyalist. I grew up playing ball, so I'm a Jordan. Everything's Jordans for me. Everything's
Sure.
Nike. Everything pretty much Nike, right? But sometimes they do things that harm your people that you're advocating for. And so for me, I just think that this partnership is so connected to our values that, no one's going to say, oh, you partnered with the white guy, right? They're pretty much, they met Matt and they love him. How many people were at the anniversary so excited to meet with you, so excited to talk to you, and we're talking about, I'm going to buy and I'm going to do this, and we had folks there that were formerly incarcerated, just blown away by the belief that a brand can actually partner with a nonprofit that does social justice work.
Speaking to,
you know what I'm saying?
Speaking how it's never been spoken
Exactly.
before, right?
And
Yeah.
so some of our boys were just like, yo, we got to take this back to our people. Like, you just went into something we've never thought we could do. And so there's going to be more partnerships, I think, with agency. We're hoping that they'll be with our peers, with our partners, to make sure that they partner with agency in order to get the shoe further along and to more people. It just can't stay within our own community. It's got to, there's issues everywhere. There's climate justice that this shoe represents, right? There's social justice. There's women's rights. And I think we're all deserving of a partnership like this.
Well said, well said. Yeah, clap it up, please. So the man of the hour, Matt, so question for you, right? So we're talking about this footwear, this amazing design. Can you walk us through it? I know there's 4 different pillars, that kind of come with that design. And then if you could kind of talk about like the nuances of the actual partnership, right? Because I know there's something about the proceeds from sales. So kind of a 2 questions for you.
Yeah, I always forget to answer the second part of your question, so I'm going to start there. But
It's
so
fine.
net proceeds go to the Gathering for Justice, but not just for her colorway, the Storm colorway, all the colorways in the Guardian of the initial launch collection, but for every agency shoe that we ever make. They're an anchor partner. It's a long-term partnership. It's been established that way. So we have it set up so that regardless of how much they're involved, money will always go from the sales of shoes to people fighting for equity and justice. And so the shoe itself, and before I brought it to Sean, before I brought it to Carmen, I gave myself the design brief that the shoe needs to be inspired by and designed for everyone helping the world embrace equality, heal the planet, change the system, and fix the future. And then each one of those I created an icon for. And there's 4 patches that you actually, I have all 4 patches on my tongue. But there's a graphic behind us that you'll be able to see as well that has each graphic on it. So that's the 4 pillars. And then I turned that into a deck of cards because it was the 4 kind of suits, if you will. And I was like, ultimately, even before I drew all that stuff and gave myself the design brief, it goes back even further to when I was volunteering with some foster kids in LA, and we were talking about the Kevin Durant's and the Kyries when Nike had Kyrie, and they just knew everything about the shoes, and they were just such good kids. And I was like, how can a sneaker brand? Because I knew that Uncle Phil was donating to a Trump-loving Republican in Oregon at the same time the Kaepernick campaign was coming out, and I was like, how can a sneaker company actually help these kids that love their shoes? And it took me a couple years to crack that code, and it came down to if everything that the shoe does actually helps fight for justice and actually creates a better future for them. And so that meant that the manufacturing has to be fair trade manufacturing. It has to have safe chemical handling procedures. We have to be as sustainable as possible. So all the textiles 100% recycled. All the foam is plant-based foam, and then the rubber is plant-based rubber. And then, I added a little bit of my design style to it, but I wanted to have it be this classic look that fits, kind of timeless in a way. It was very function-based, but at the same time has a style to it. Patent pending on the midfoot strap with a patent I wrote myself, which took a long time.
Vegan.
Yeah, vegan leather. So it's a corn-based vegan as well. So it's not a petroleum-based synthetic, which was important to me. So everything had to fight for those kids, basically. It was like, all right, if I'm going to work every day, that's what I want to do. And so then in order to round out that journey, it was moving to New York. It was becoming part of the community. It was getting to know them first. And then it was working with Carmen and getting to know her and making sure that the story is authentic and troubleshooting it with her. And then, and now we're at the point where, we're bringing it to the public. And hopefully, like Carmen said, we can introduce it to more and more communities as we go around. And it's a very in-depth and engrossing story to tell. There's a lot to it. And so the big bulk of the time for me was condensing that down into digestible bits, And so that's why it's just embrace equality. Is just about the mindset. It's about the mindset of and for me, it's like, how can I fight white supremacy? And the problem with white supremacy in my mind is that they don't find that they're equal. They believe that we're equal as human beings. Then that mindset disappears. And then healing the planet's pretty obvious. But from a design perspective, and the other designers here can tell you, when you go to school for design, they teach you that nature is the best designer. And you should find your inspiration in nature. I became a huge fan of everything about that. And I really probably know a little bit too much about all that stuff. And so, like, if you want to be sustainable, or if you want to care about the planet, we need to find businesses that actually fight for change, that actually change. Because without the business community being involved in the fight for change, it's just not going to happen. They're too big. They're too big.
Too slow.
And too slow. I'm rambling. So
that's okay. Telling your story.
Yeah, but that's where the shoe comes from. It comes from trying to help the kids. And as a matter of fact, there's a drawing, you can see it in the back, but there's a drawing of my daughter when she was 3 on the right footbed, and it says "for the kids" underneath it. Cries.
Very cool. All right, so
That was the story that sold me. when he had talked
Okay.
about his daughter when we first met, because I think oftentimes you meet people and you're kind of like, what's your why, right? And for him, his why was his daughter. One of the things that I remember when we were first talking too is we do a lot of like celebrity basketball games with young people, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I played ball, and so I want to give the opportunity for young people to play with their local heroes. And so I was like, yeah, we're gonna use these for basketball, and he would be like, these are for marching. So you can do whatever you want, but these are for marching. I'm like, no, we're gonna play ball with them. You know, it's gonna be amazing. And so I really thought we were building a basketball shoe again, because you're still stuck in the childhood years of you just, thinking about the was it David Robinsons and the Magic Johnson, all those shoes from back in the day, right? But he was like, no, this is a shoe that is to be worn to protest and march. And I was like, okay, but we're still going to wear them for basketball. So we're going to test them out in January because we have a basketball. Right? Yeah, you can. But I was so fixated on that. But also, again, just the story of his daughter, that you meet people all the time. You don't really get to the point of why they do things and why folks show up. And it was really important, especially because we're an organization that serves young people, particularly young people that are incarcerated. I think that's what also probably drew him to the work that we do at the Gathering. It's not just about these mass mobilizations. It's about the people that are stuck in the valley of the beast, the people that don't have a voice, the people that need somebody to advocate for them. And so I remember just that image of his daughter and thinking about how beautiful. I don't know if anybody has seen the box of the shoes, but there's so much. Talk about the story, right? There's so many layers to the box. The thank you note, the elements on the box, just all of it, and also within the shoe.
So I think one thing that you've been able to recognize is that there definitely is, synergy between social justice and fashion and footwear, and certainly just aspirationally, these are things that, we can do to kind of push things forward within our community and still get fits off, still be fly, but with a message. Now, we are at a sneaker boutique, and again, shout out to Extra Butter. Thank you again. Now, Matt, the shoe is actually here for sale this evening, right? This is the first time, like in person, that people can buy. Is that right?
Yeah, so this is the very first time you can buy the shoe. It's here. It's $195, and I put my heart and soul into it. Worked with Carmen to make sure that the message was authentic. Worked with Sean to make sure that the message was authentic, and
Perfect. So that concludes just kind of the panel discussion questions that we had. But I want to open it up to the audience. Anyone have any questions for anyone that's up here?
Speak now.
Okay.
My name is Francisco.
Speak up a little bit.
My name is Francisco, Frankie, whatever you got.
What's going on, Frankie? How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. How you doing, Lewis? But I'm Puerto Rican, and recently, more than anything, I found out a lot about the history of my country. And I know that you said you recently went to Mexico, and that was very big for you. And I wanted to know, when it comes to social justice or making an impact on things that matter to you, what did you feel was the biggest step in bringing what you found out home back over here? Because I feel like there's so much, like you said, misinformation that people are taught. And one thing I know, like specifically with my country, if anybody doesn't know, a couple years, probably 30, 40, 50 years ago, 80% of Puerto Rico's population massacred in hopes of repopulating us with the European look, kind of like what happened with the Germans and all things like that. And a lot of Puerto Ricans aren't taught this type of thing, you know what I mean? And that's why a lot of them don't identify with their Afro-Latino roots, things of this nature. And so recently I've been going out there. My mom moved out there. I learned so much about my island, and it's beautiful and low. So I wanted to know, what do you do to push that message that you learned out there over here?
So I do a lot of Black and Brown coalition building. I do a lot of Black and Brown solidarity work. I go into the prison, so it's Black and Brown, right? So it's also a population that is just naturally in the environment of where I work. And so I try to build bridges. One of the things that, the United States is about to turn 250 years, July 4th, 2026. I'm currently working on a project called the Next 250, and it's to rewrite the Declaration of Independence to become the Declaration of Interdependence. We're working with 50 power building organizations and doing listening sessions. That information will be culminated into a new document. But I'm also in the middle of rewriting the story of the Chicano and the Mexican in the United States, because although the U.S. is turning 250 years, it was stolen from Mexico, and 51% of what we know is now the United States used to be Mexico. And so I use my platform. My title is Civil Rights Activist, Chicana Feminist. So I'm always talking about how proud I am to be, but I also do a lot of storytelling. We do a lot of coalition building. We don't just share stories, but we share food, we share culture, we share dance. I bring MLK to a predominantly Mexican community in Oxnard, California, and in Stockton. So we bring Black leaders to really learn about how those who have been part of the civil rights movement, the Black liberation movement, have really paved the way for those of us that are benefiting off of some of the rights. And so I try to do those type of cultural exchanges, but I build things. I'm a co-founder of a lot of things, but I'm in the middle of writing an oral history on Latinos, particularly Mexicans, being systemically oppressed in this country dating back 250 years. And actually it goes a little bit further than 250 years. So use your story. Talk to people. What you just shared right now is so important, especially because when people don't know, sometimes we're like, damn, why do I gotta educate them? I don't wanna be the one, right? But sometimes it has to be you. You're the bridge, right? Ain't nobody else gonna come and save us. And oftentimes we're waiting for Superman, Wonder Woman to come. We're the ones we've been waiting for. And so whatever you feel compelled to do, go do that. And find other people that are like-hearted. There's like-minded people, but their heart could shift. Look for people who are like-hearted and connect to that corazón and go and do what you feel you got to do for your people.
My name is Linda. This is really amazing. I appreciate y'all putting in the effort. I'm a visual artist and activist as well, and based in Connecticut, but now in New York. And when I think about activism, there's a lot of pain and trauma that comes with it. And I think being leaders and being in the forefront, I've had the experience to do that as well back home, and it takes a toll. And I really want to know how do y'all move past the hurt? Yes, this is important. Yes, this is beautiful when people come together. I've seen miracles happen a lot in Hartford, Connecticut specifically. Is a small city that has a lot of activists, people that I still see fighting day and night. And I want to learn a little bit more how y'all kind of work through either with community or personally through the pains that come with activism.
So at the gathering we do healing. We do we do indigenous healing, but we also do other healing modals. We do circle, we do the fire of pain, the fire of imagination. We have dream sessions. A lot of times there's not an opportunity to really dream about tomorrow, and so you're always responding to trauma. The work that I do at the Gathering for Justice, when we're working with families that are killed or whose loved one has been killed, you're responding to trauma. And so you also have to have a very strong spiritual practice. I know for myself, I do gratitude journaling, I pray, and I work out my husband's here, so I can't really lie about that, but about six days a week. I'm doing HIIT, boxing, and I personally train. But it's really about self. I will say, again, my peers, we would say we don't have the right to do nothing. But when you are at the feet of a man who is 50-something years older than you, who took his last breath at 96, you really don't have, and had committed his life to the civil rights movement, to apartheid, and all these different movements, right? I never felt I could really complain about what I was going through. Even